Causes have causes have causes, and they go back all the way to the Big Bang. Does that mean we have no free will? People often ask me that. I find the question stunningly uninteresting. Of course we don't have free will.
Do we have free will? Obviously, because we experience ourselves making choices all the times between alternatives. We experience ourselves as free. Also, society bears witness to the reality of free will. If we did not choose freely, then all of our punishments, all of our trophies and rewards would be an injustice, because we sentence men to prison, we give people trophies for their good actions because we truly believe that they could have done otherwise. Now, Sabine is a materialist. We're going to hear her words on that specifically, but if materialism is true, which is her backing for denying free will, then truth doesn't exist. It's self-refuting, because if all you are is just atoms, then there's no such thing as a true combination of atoms or a false combination of atoms. And if all your thoughts and ideas and reasoning are just combination of atoms, there's no reason for them to be more true or false. They have as much meaning as a tipped over Scrabble board. So materialism itself is self-refuting. But Sabine is a respected scientist. We want to hear her thoughts on materialism, and then we're going to give two arguments for the immateriality of the mind, which will then lead to voluntariness of the will, free will. Here's Sabine.
And we begin, of course, with physics. Everything in the universe is made of 25 particles that, for all we currently know, are not themselves made of any smaller constituents. We collect them in what's called the standard model of particle physics. That's everything in the universe except possibly dark matter, but that's a different story.
Now, Sabine is incorrect that all there is matter. So our first argument for the immateriality of the mind and of thought, which will lead to our discussion of free will, is from the universal nature and abstractness of conceptual thought. So, for example, think of a chiliagon. That's a 1,000-sided figure. You've never seen a 1,000-sided figure. You can't imagine a 1,000-sided figure. Images are 2D, but you do know what I'm talking about when I talk about a 1,000-sided figure. You can do that because you know the abstract universal terms or concepts of figure, of sided, of 1,000, not a particular sided thing, not a particular figure, but you know the abstract universal notion. Now, everything that is material is a particular material thing, but you know something that is not particular, it's universal and abstract, and therefore cannot be material. And so the knowing power in which it resides, the intellect, must also be immaterial to contemplate these universal, abstract, immaterial truths. It allows you to construct a 1,000-sided figure if you wanted to out in the world. It allows you to know what one side added to a 1,000-sided figure would be. And so here is Dr. Fazer speaking specifically about the immateriality of thought and the mind. Concepts are inherently abstract and universal, whereas material phenomena are concrete and particular. Accordingly, a concept cannot be identified with anything concrete, particular, or material, and thus it cannot be identified with any physical symbol in the brain or nervous system. And again, when the mind grasps a concept or proposition, there is clearly a sense in which that concept or proposition is in the mind. But if these things are in the mind, and yet, for the reasons given above, cannot be in the brain, it would seem to follow that the mind cannot be identified with the brain, or for the matter, with anything material. The second argument for the immateriality of the mind, which will lead to our discussion of free will, is from the simplicity of self, the unity of self having these thoughts. So if you were just matter, then the thought, I am just atoms, let's say the I would have an atom attached to it, or neurological process just would have its own particular piece of matter connected to it. And same with atoms. So who is the person having the single thought, I am just atoms? And if you suppose another material mechanism that is somehow unifying those particular words, which we're going to pull concepts out of, well, then you're just pushing the problem a little bit further down the road, because what is taking the information from that particular material unifier and bringing it into a single and simple thought, which you can contemplate? And so Dr. Fazer speaks to this point as well, saying, Nor, as William Hasker points out, will it help to posit a neural scanning mechanism of some kind that collects and integrates the information from A and B, since this will simply raise the same problem again at a higher level. For how does the information encoded in the parts of the scanning mechanism get unified? Hence, there is simply no sense to be made of a composite thing entertaining a proposition. Now, lastly, we come to the freedom of the will, built upon the immateriality of the intellect and knowing power through abstracts and universal concepts, and then the unity of the self. And this argument is from the indeterminate conceptual content of material things. So, for example, you're looking at me. What concept are you bringing me, the particular thing, under? Is it under man or adult or Catholic or YouTuber or speaker? There is nothing in the matter in me or in you, even if you conjured up an image. From that image, like you close your eyes, you stop watching the YouTube, from that image, it won't determine what concept you bring that image under. Again, is it as a human being or an adult male or Catholic? That space there between the material thing outside of you or imagined in the mind, and then the concepts you abstract from it, you choose to abstract from it, that it doesn't force you to abstract from it or you're determined to, is that space which allows freedom of the will. Because from that conceptual thought, you will then move to desire, intentionality, and then your actions as well. And so the will is free. It is not determined by any matter outside of you or within you. To this, Dr. Fazer speaks as well. Here's his words. The word triangle. Consider a simple pictorial representation, such as a drawing of a triangle. What is the content of this representation? Does it represent triangularity in the abstract? Or only black triangles specifically? Or maybe only black isosceles triangles specifically? Does it represent something else instead, such as a pyramid, or a dunce cap, or a slice of pizza? There is nothing in the physical properties of the representation that can tell us. There will always be alternative possible interpretations. The physical properties of any material representation are indeterminate or ambiguous with respect to its content. So in response to Sabine, we do have free will. It's voluntary, first, because of the immateriality of the mind, because we can contemplate immaterial, universal, and abstract notions from the unity of the self, whose simplicity cannot be found in particular immaterial things. So the self must be immaterial. And then from there is space created between the material world and then how we choose to conceive of it, or how we abstract from that material world to contemplate the various thoughts that we do, which the will then follow from. So thank you for listening. My name is Austin Habish with Think Catholic, and God bless you.